Hello lovelies, today we're going to take a retrospective view, a know your role at Dogtown. Dogtown is a 2002 to 2005 indie crime game by Jonathan Ridd of Cold Blooded Games. Geezer I actually met. You can still get it on PDF for free if you're so inclined, along with quite a lot of supporting material and additional books. The hard copy also appears to be available at cost for around £8 plus shipping via lulu.com. But be aware that this is very, very, very much a product of the early PDF boom, with design aesthetics and execution going very much back to that sort of time. It's about 300 pages of material. Interestingly and amusingly, in the book, he talks about scaling it back and not including everything, otherwise it would have been a 500-page behemoth. That doesn't stop anybody these days. So that's an interesting artifact of the time. It does have a bunch of useful reference material and worksheets in the back. Now, criminal games. I've been considering doing a criminal-oriented game for some time. It's a genre that goes back at least as far as Gangbusters in 1982, back when TSR, or whoever were the guardians of D&D at the time, did other games as well. Albeit you were fighting against the criminals in that incarnation. It's surprising to me that for such a popular genre in other arenas that there haven't been more crime games, police procedurals, criminal capers, things like that. Perhaps people just prefer to play the hero. Perhaps they just prefer having more fantastical elements in their games. But, you know, as I say, the popularity of murder mysteries, crime capers, etc. seems to suggest otherwise. And we do see blended games, and Cyberpunk is basically near-future crime games for the most part, albeit with social science fiction commentary. But for whatever reason, pure crime caper games don't seem to be that common. Don't seem to exist in any great numbers, which again is weird and a shame, and perhaps I'm setting myself up for failure by trying to approach the topic myself. Now, Dogtown is set in the 1970s, which you could argue was one of the sort of heights of gangster movies, of the grittier, nastier type, and of course of the movie directors who made them and made such a success of them. This being the second boom of gangster movies after the 1930s, 1940s films, and perhaps you could argue that we've had another resurgence since. These things tend to go in cycles, perhaps. I mean, Guy Ritchie's entire career, or at least the successful parts of it, mostly seem to be related to slightly comedic crime caper films. Still, this is grounded in those sort of Scorsese sort of era things. Dogtown itself is a place, not just the name of the game, and it is a setting for the whole thing. It's meant to be a fictionalized ghetto of New York in the mid to late 70s, so roughly when I was born. And so you can kind of tap into that New York vibe without necessarily bumping up against real life. Would it have been better to ground it in the real world? Maybe, but I can understand why people are a bit gun-shy about doing that. Now, me telling you all that basically tells you all you need to know about the setting and everything else if you're at all familiar with these sorts of things. But it's a game, so there is more. System-wise, it uses something called the split system, which we'll get on to. The district, Dogtown, is divided out into sections and each one's mapped out. That allows you to create a sense of familiarity over time with the district. The more that you play in it, certain places and people and aspects of the setting will become more grounded for your players and become a sort of at the table shorthand as you go along. The way that has happened for other detailed city sources, such as Night City for Cyberpunk, my own Whitechester, or other well-developed settings. You know, you start to develop landmarks in the fictional space. And that's the strength of the game, I think. Anyway, system-wise, this split system, it isn't especially intuitive as a system, and many aspects of it are worded in ways that are extremely confusing and which slow you down. It's not that the mathematics or the equations are necessarily difficult, it's that there's an awful lot of them, and so it is an awful lot of work to get a character set up and ready, and accomplishing anything in the game. Characters are defined by attributes, skills, and sort of special abilities, as you might expect for any somewhat modern game that isn't class and level based. Attributes include bulk, which is your sort of size, power, which is your strength, toughness, reflexes, senses, brains, control, which is like willpower, style, which is charisma-ish, experience, and luck. Kind of echoes BRP a bit in a lot of ways. Those statistics all start at -2 and can be boosted to a maximum of level 20 or possibly even level 25. You get development points based on the campaign style level, starting at 20 attribute points, 6 special talents levels, and 60 skill points when you're at the street punk level. From those, you get derived attributes, including trauma resistance, hurt modifier, injury points, move, endurance, reaction, sus, discipline, street knowledge, balls, and hostility. And each of those may have derived sub-values themselves, with more equations, which aren't complicated, but there's just a lot of them. And so, yeah, there's a lot of maths just to get a character ready. If, for example, you had toughness 10 and bulk 10, your trauma resistance would come out at 40, because it's toughness times 2 plus bulk times 2. There are example character archetypes, which we flipped past already, but this isn't a class-based system. These are really just kind of suggested pick-up-and-play templates. Special talents, you can have merits or flaws, minor boosts or drawbacks in particular instances. Each skill has a base derived value and can then be purchased up to a maximum level of 10. Skills can also be sub-specialized into 1 or 2 subcategories, granting even bigger potential bonuses when it comes to using that particular skill. To do anything, you compare values on a resistance table, again similar to old basic role-playing, and this gives you a d20 target score, and you can score degrees of success up to a point. And honestly, in reading through the system, as might be appropriate for an old cop in the setting, I was getting too old for this shit and my eyes had glazed over. While the maths is simple, this is still a hell of a lot of mathematics, with barely 2 equations being the same anywhere. To derive everything up front before you can even play is it's a lot of front-loaded work. That's a bit of a hurdle to overcome. I've nothing against simulationism. Simulationism is an older style of game trying to model reality, and that's definitely what they're going for here, trying to make it very gritty and make it feel very grounded. It has a lot of things going for it, simulationism in a lot of ways, but even a simulationist game can have a lower barrier to entry than this. And you know, I've seen people complain that BRP is too complicated, and this seems to be, at least conceptually, a bit of a derivation from BRP. But this is much of the book is an endless catalogue of subsystems and applications, which means less role-playing and more looking things up and then applying maths. In my experience, that means you're going to end up gaming the system rather than the situation and the play-by-play. So it gets in its way a lot, which is weird when you consider the source material. The films of the period are often very tightly focused on what we would consider soft roleplay, rather than the mechanics of the thing. So yeah, it gets in its own way a lot, and because it has a subsystem for everything, a lot of space in the book that could have gone on creating the sort of feel and character, and more detail on the city and the factions, and instead you have endless subsystems and applications of subsystems. And I mean, just referencing a book of this size becomes a bit of a job. No, there must be an index. There must. No. Huh. How did I miss that? Okay, this is not going to be easy to reference. There doesn't appear to be an index, and there doesn't appear to be a contents. So yeah, that's going to be more than a little challenging, I think. Trying to navigate the book. You may be better off getting this on PDF, so you can actually find anything in it. Which again, you can pick up for free from Drive-Thru, if you so want. So how do we score such a thing? Style-wise, you're looking at a solid 3 overall, which is average. It's of its era, but the art and much of the writing, when it's not just rules, which a lot of it is, does reflect and create the 1970s aesthetic very strongly. However, this is a very dry, procedural, simulationist tome. Anywhere it's not involved in creating the sense of place and so on. And that is most of it. So the system really gets in the way and prevents this being a good game. And the presentation of it drags down the style a great deal. So yeah, substance wise, there is some material missing despite the completionist approach to the game, but that extra material is available in the supplementary modules and booklets. So I mean, if content's what you're after, yeah, it's got everything, it's just poorly organized and so on. So I think substance-wise, it's just an organisational issue. So again, that's 3. So that would be a solid average 6 out of 10, which is bang on the average. But I still wouldn't recommend this game even to people who want to play crime games. It's a curiosity, and you can get it for free. So I mean, why not? But why wouldn't I recommend it or give it a higher score? Well, it's a total maths and stat fest. It's over complex. It's unnecessarily complex. If you're into that and don't mind the number crunching, which as I say isn't difficult, it's just that there's a lot of it, if you don't mind having a hard and fast rule for everything that you're going to need to look up constantly, this will be up your alley. A modern axe, if you will. For me, though, I don't think the juice is worth the squeeze, but my taste isn't everyone's taste. I wouldn't run this, I wouldn't play this, because it's just not what I'm looking for from a crime game, which is useful in considering how to approach my own crime game. In fact, this is so unwieldy and so annoying and so difficult as a game to play. I don't think I'll even run it on Grim Streams, because it would be such a huge effort to create pre-generated characters and an adventure, and to look everything up as I went through it. It's just, yeah, it would not be a good experience to watch, it would not be a good experience to run, and I doubt it would be a good experience to play. Use something else. Yeah. Sorry, John. Zang. Of course you can call me Daddy, and if you want to follow me on Facebook, you can find me at james.desborough, Post-Muslim Studios, all one word, JD Writer and JGD Games.
Get some plastic surgery against this society. Entropy, apathy, morality, totality. Makeup of your final days. Survival of the fittest haze. Might is right on, fight on, praise. Smoke and mirrors, twisted maze. Are you strong